Okay, so I figured I'd do a checklist on cults to see if Jehovah's Witnesses really are a cult. Because you hear this a lot, and a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses want to deny this. Now, when I was becoming Jehovah's Witness, they defined the word cult for me, and it basically pertained to worshiping one single person as your leader. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that, of course. They worship a group of people as their leaders, or, in their words, they worship Jesus as their leader. So let's just go down this checklist and see if Jehovah's Witnesses really are a cult or not. It says, this checklist will be published in the new book, Take Back Your Life, Recovering from Cults and Abusive Relationships, by Janja Lalick and Madeline Tobias, Berkeley Bay Tree Publishing, 2006. It was adapted from a checklist originally developed by Michael Langone. Okay, so let's go down this checklist.
The group displays excessively zealous and unquestioning commitment to its leader and, whether he is alive or dead, regards his belief system, ideology, and practices as the truth, as law.
Check. Jehovah's Witnesses seem to think that their governing body is what's called the faithful and discreet slave. They are chosen by Jesus himself in 1918 to lead God's religion.
Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished.
That's definitely a check mark. Why don't you try going to a kingdom hall, stand up in front of everybody and say, I believe in Jesus, I believe in the Bible, I believe in God, I believe God's name is Jehovah, but I disagree with the governing body's opinions on what the Bible says. See what happens. You will be disfellowshipped.
Mind-altering practices such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, and debilitating work routines are used in excess and serve to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders.
Now, this one I had a little bit of trouble with here, because what mind-altering practices could Jehovah's Witnesses possibly do? But after thinking about it, it says here, debilitating work routines. I would say service and 3 meetings a week would be considered debilitating work routines.
The leadership dictates, sometimes in great detail, how members should think, act, and feel. For example, members must get permission to date, change jobs, marry, or leaders prescribe what types of clothes to wear, where to live, whether or not to have children, how to discipline children, and so forth.
This isn't even a question. This is obvious. Jehovah's Witnesses match that with flying colors. They have to get permission to date. They have to follow very stringent rules about dating. They have to have chaperones. They can't have boyfriends if they're guys or girlfriends if they're girls. Change jobs? Yes, they have to change jobs if that job interferes with meetings or service. They have to wear clean, nice clothing. They're told to live a simple life. That was one of their recent videos. And they're also discouraged from having children in favor of special pioneering or going to Bethel or something like that.
The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders, and members. For example, the leaders consider the Messiah a special being, an avatar, or the group and or the leader is on a special mission to save humanity.
And of course, they claim that the faithful and discreet slave, or the governing body, was chosen by Jesus in 1918. So they definitely claim a special exalted status for themselves.
The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may cause conflict with the wider society.
Now, a lot of people may disagree with this one, but just think about how you're supposed to treat people of the world. You're not allowed to be part of the world. You can't have worldly friends. You can't hang out with kids at school or people at work. Can't go to public gatherings, parties, or anything like that. So check mark on that one.
The leader is not accountable to any authorities, unlike, for example, teachers, military commanders or ministers, priests, monks, and rabbis of mainstream religious denominations.
Now, this one is a little bit controversial. The leader is not accountable to any authorities. So, I think a lot of the ex-Jehovah's Witness community would be really upset with me if I did not check this one. But I know Jehovah's Witnesses are going to disagree. If you think about this, in their books, they tell children that have been molested or victims of rape or anything like that to first report it to the elders, report it to their parents, and tell their friends or their peers, which are other Jehovah's Witnesses. Do not report it to the police. They are not accountable to any authorities. Now think about what happens in Mexico with mandatory military service. They were told not to serve. What about saluting the flag, saying the Pledge of Allegiance? They were told not to do that. And they were beaten and jailed, sometimes killed as a result of these orders passed down from the governing body. Their leader is not accountable to any authorities.
The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify whatever means it deems necessary. This may result in members participating in behaviors or activities they would have considered reprehensible or unethical before joining the group. For example, lying to family or friends or collecting money for bogus charities.
Now let's think about this one, because this one gets a little bit complicated. I'm going to give you guys an example. My mother was taking my daughter with her to the meetings and out in service and wasn't telling me about this. She was lying. She was straight up saying she was not doing that. Now, how did she justify that lie to herself? Because it was for the greater good. It was for my daughter. It was to help her, to save her from Armageddon. They will do anything in the name of Jehovah, or, more accurately, in the name of Jehovah's Witnesses, of the organization. Check.
The leadership induces feelings of shame and or guilt in order to influence and or control members. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion.
Oh, that's a big check mark. The leadership induces feelings of shame and or guilt in order to influence or control members. Do I even need to go into detail on this one?
Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends and radically alter the personal goals and activities they had before joining the group.
This is preached from the pulpit. I mean, this is exactly what they say. This list could be tailor-made for Jehovah's Witnesses. Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends. I mean, think about disfellowshipped people. Think about disassociated people, the shunning policies they have. And not only that, but you are not allowed to hang out with friends at school. You can't go to gatherings or parties. Next one.
The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members.
I can agree with that. Say 90 hours a month, or I guess it's 70 hours a month now, special pioneering. Everybody's pushed to go in service. We want your hours. Where are your field service hours? On and on and on.
The group is preoccupied with making money.
Now, I don't know about this one. The group is preoccupied with making money. I can't in good conscience check that one. I mean, they are preoccupied with money, but I don't think that's their main purpose. I think they're real in their delusion. I take the John Cedar channel side on this. I think they're real in their delusion, and they believe that they're doing this for good reasons. So I think that they need money to survive, but I don't think that they are preoccupied with money. Now, I could be wrong on that, so maybe somebody can correct me in the comments.
Members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group and group-related activities.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely the case with Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, somebody added it up one time. Say you do 15 hours of service a month, plus all of the meetings. When I was going to the meetings, we had 2-hour meeting on Sunday, and then an hour book study, and then an hour and 45 minutes on Wednesday night, the midweek meeting. So just in meetings alone, that's almost a full 5 hours, plus the service, which is 15 hours. Not to mention all the studying you have to do to answer at these meetings. I mean, hours and hours and hours of your week just gone, evaporated.
Members are encouraged or required to live and or socialize only with other group members.
I don't even need to address this one. Yes, they are encouraged or required to live and or socialize only with other group members.
The most loyal members feel there can be no life outside the context of the group. They believe there is no other way to be, and often fear reprisals to themselves or others if they leave or even consider leaving the group.
And finally, yes, the most loyal members feel there can be no life outside the context of the group. That is true. They don't want anything to do with the world. I know this painter. I mean, I don't think he was famous, but the last time he painted anything, that painting sold for $100,000. And what did he do? He gave that up. He gave up painting. He refused to even sketch because he was afraid he would get sucked back into it. He and his wife decided not to have any kids. He decided they would become cleaners, go from office to office, cleaning for these people instead of painting, which was his passion, and be special pioneers for the rest of their lives. I don't see how he could possibly believe that there's anything outside of the context of Jehovah's Witnesses. So there you go, guys. There's the list. Jehovah's Witnesses are officially a cult. Now, there is one more thing I wanted to say. Last summer, I sent my daughter with my mom just for like a month because she hadn't seen her in a year since we don't live near each other and I'm disfellowshipped. So I sent my daughter with her, and come to find out, she was taking her to meetings. She was taking her in service when she was not supposed to be doing that. And she lied about it. So I was trying to figure out what to do about this. So I wrote her an email, and I'm going to read little excerpts from this email. I gave her 5 reasons why I couldn't send my daughter with her anymore. The first reason was, witnesses are violating human rights with their shunning practice. Here's Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change one's religion or belief. And Article 20 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, no one may be compelled to belong to an organization. The penalty for leaving is organization-mandated shunning by family and friends. I and many others are being compelled to return, or the organization won't release my family and friends as hostages. They've destroyed countless people's lives just because they decide they don't believe it anymore. Now, there's a lot more to that one. I'm just going to leave it there and move on to number 2. So this is what I said for number 2. Want to know where your money goes when you donate it? They just paid out $13.5 million and another $15 million for 2 different lawsuits over them not reporting child molesters to the police after they had solid evidence of the crimes. They're withholding thousands of pedophiles' names, and currently, at this moment, they're being fined $4,000 per day by the court until they release the names. Last I heard, they were up to $250,000 or $300,000. The reason it's such a problem is because the governing body specifically discourages reporting sexual abuse to the police, so it doesn't bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Number 3, I said, they were a part of the UN for 10 years as a non-governmental organization, after decades of demonizing the UN as the beast of revelation. When exposed by a British newspaper, they claimed their reason for registering was so they could have access to the library. But they could have accessed the same books and information at UN depositories, of which there are like 4 in the same area as the main library. They had absolutely no need to be NGOs of the UN. They could have just gone to the depositories, which contained hard copies of the exact same information. Number 4, what's the deal with the beard rule? There is no biblical reason to avoid facial hair. Somebody at the top just doesn't like it. Number 5, witnesses discourage higher education. That is a problem, because my kid has another 18 years of school left, and I don't want that slipped into her head. Her primary goal is education, and nobody will change that. I thought it was important for you to know my reasons for not letting go with you anymore. For her protection from pedophiles, brainwashing, and future human rights violations in the form of shunning. So I got a response from her this morning. I'm not going to read the whole response, but I'm just going to give you the first little section here. She said, I did not read your apostate propaganda. I just deleted it. No offense, but I need to protect my faith. Thank you for letting her call me. I'm keeping communication between you and myself at a minimum. I'm not abandoning you. I just live a different way of life and choose to be loyal to my God, Jehovah. Love from your mother. She wouldn't even read what I said. My response to that was, it's not apostate propaganda, it's objective fact that you can independently verify. Don't even take my word for it. Most of this can be found in your own literature, but I don't blame you for abandoning me, which is what you're doing. I consider you a hostage of the organization. I more blame them than I do you. Now, I've mentioned this once before, but I got asked this question the other day about why I'm talking to my mom in the first place, since I'm disfellowshipped and she's a Jehovah's Witness. So I figured I'd take the opportunity to clarify. So basically, my mom does break the rule sometimes if it pertains to something important, like my daughter, for example. Fairly recently, she lost her iPhone and I had to track it. I was the only one that could track it. She left it at a shop somewhere, so she was forced to call me for all intents and purposes, lest she spend $800 on a new phone. So in certain circumstances, she will communicate with me, but it's about once every few months or so. So I just wanted to clarify that for people that were wondering why I have communication with her in the first place. Anyways, I'll be putting out a new video pretty soon. Talk to you guys later. Put out by Jehovah's Witnesses. Can you tell what they're talking about? This is real, guys. These are real Jehovah's Witnesses doing real sign language. But look at this dude's facial expressions. Were those really necessary?